Welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Elizabeth Eve King.
And I'm Andrea Goyan.
Today, we're really excited to have Dave Chesson joining us. Dave is the founder of Kindlepreneur. At Kindlepreneur, Dave helps authors and aspiring authors sell more books and make more money. An author himself, Dave has penned the book, Amazon Kindle Ratings, How to Rank Your Kindle Book #1 on Amazon. Welcome, Dave.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
And before we get into our discussions, can you show us a picture of your soon-to-be pet?
Yes.
So cute.
My family and I, we just moved into a new house. Whoop, there it is.
Oh.
And it's funny is that I've been married for 16 years, and from day one, I've asked, can we get a dog? And my wife always said, well, when you get out of the military, you can get one. So then I got out of the military, and then she goes, I was like, great, let's get a dog. She's like, got to get a house. We're not renting. So then we buy a house. I'm like, how about now? And she's like, got to have at least an acre. So we just got a new house. It's 10 acres. And the first thing I said was, can we get a dog? And she's like, okay. So I'm really excited about it. It's been 16 years in the making. I've got 3 kids. 2 are here at home. 1 just got married. But the other 2 are just so ready. My son, who just turned 9 a couple days ago, he's a snuggler. He always looks for something to snuggle. And my wife is like, yeah, that boy needs a dog. I'm like, I agree. So we're really excited.
When do you get the puppy?
Well, we're set to potentially get him in 2 weeks, but then also to the breeder also has like a 2-week program. So we'll pick him up first, then we bring him back to then kind of go through extra training. And then this breeder is going to come over to our home a couple of times to actually train at our home with us as well. And so that way it should be a really well-trained pup.
Well, actually, I think
guard.
when they come to your house, they're actually training you guys, but
Yep, training us and like how to handle exactly. And I'm really excited about that.
Very cool. Yeah. Really cute.
That sounds great. So would you tell Kindlepreneur? I mean, it's huge. Everybody knows it. And then you have also your search word thing, which is amazing. So tell us about Kindlepreneur, how you started, where it went, and the search words.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
2 sentences. No, I'm kidding about the 2 sentences.
2 sentences. Got it. Yeah, so back when I started writing books on Amazon, I really ran into a problem with the fact that there wasn't a lot of information out there. This was years ago when self-publishing was kind of a new thing. More importantly, though, I, as a writer, wanted to know more about Amazon. How do I figure out how to get my books in front of more shoppers? How can I convince Amazon to show my book over somebody else's? And I come from kind of an engineering background. And so I wanted to really test and experiment with Amazon and learn. And so these were the things that really started kindlepreneur.com, my website. And I chronicled everything I did. I analyzed Amazon. And I'll tell you, to this day, we have over 200 articles that focus on just about every facet to self-publishing and book marketing. But every one of those articles is written so that if somebody has a question, they can read it, learn, turn around, and take action and see results. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that's really helped us to grow. I think it's a fair statement to say we're one of the largest book marketing and self-publishing websites out there, especially for traffic. We've also added a whole bunch of free tools that authors can use, like a book description generator, as well as our bestseller rank calculator, an ISBN barcode generator, like just about all these things that are out there that authors run into, they can access those. What's really cool is I have a programming team under me. And as an author, I constantly run into something where I'm like, oh man, wouldn't it be nice if? And I'm like, you know what, guys, let's go ahead and build that. So it just makes life easier. And so we've incorporated that as well. I do a lot of YouTube videos as well, because sometimes when you're trying to teach book marketing or self-publishing, it's best to look over somebody's shoulder as they do it instead of reading an article that tries to spell it out. And so that's really been the core component to that. The other thing that's been really big for us is that about 6-7 years ago or so, I created a software called Publisher Rocket. Back in the day, it was actually called KDP Rocket, then we changed the name to Publisher Rocket. But it was just listed by MarketWatch. as one of the top 10 book marketing companies in the world. That software has been employed by some of the biggest publishing companies, as well as thousands of self-published authors. It's really helped to pull back the curtain of Amazon and give authors the ability to see what's going on. And it helps authors find the keywords, choose the categories, as well as do an advertisement for their books. And so the best way to just kind of describe it is one of the leading book marketing softwares out there. And one of the things I personally love or hate, actually, is subscriptions, and it is not. It's a one-time fee of $97 and you get it for life.
So people who, like, if I want to self-publish a book, are you a one-stop shop or are you a one-stop teaching program?
One-stop teaching program. So really one of the biggest things is, like, if you Google, like if you go to Google and you search something that's probably pertinent to like a question or trying to learn something about book marketing or self-publishing, usually a Kindlepreneur article will show up near the top there. And therefore, it really empowers authors to learn about marketing. Now, here's the thing, though. It's not just self-published authors, though. It's also for published authors. I've been a consultant to multiple publishing companies, from incredibly large to small. And what I've seen is the mass majority of, authors come in, they're like, oh man, I want to be a published author. Well, when they finally get a contract with a publisher, most of the time, and I mean like mass majority of the time, the publisher says, great, all right, here's our objective, here's some of the things we're going to do. Now, what are you going to do? And so even the published authors really have to learn how to market. And the better they understand this, the more attractive they are to published companies. You can go on the flip side too, and I've seen it where I've sat in on these board meetings on the published companies, and they have two books that they're trying to figure out which one they want to sign. Book A is actually better, but the author has no background, and there's nothing to base it off of, and they don't think this person is great at selling. Or book B isn't as good, but the author has an email list, they have social media following. 9 times out of 10, book B is the one they select because that one will equate to more money. And let's face it, in the publishing world, that's key. So whether you're published or unpublished, or you want to be published, it's still important for an author to understand the marketing craft of books, because it will help them in either way. And so I would say Kindlepreneur is truly geared towards both.
Okay.
And how did,
Good processing.
yeah, you mentioned you looked at your books and said, how can I get them at the top of the Amazon? So how can you get them at the top of the Amazon, when
Yeah.
you're searching?
Yeah, so the first thing we need to understand is Amazon is a giant search engine, okay? And according to Amazon, over 76% of shoppers use their search engine to purchase the books that they read, which means that people go up there and they type in a phrase that describes the kind of book they're looking for. And then Amazon uses a lot of components to figure out which books they want to put up there. Now, it would probably take me a little bit of time to go through all of those, but a really general overview is this. One of the biggest things that affects your book is when you go to publish your book on Amazon or on KDP, they're going to ask you to fill in those 7 Kindle keyword blocks, okay? There's 7 spots. You can put those in. The words you put into those blocks heavily influence where Amazon or when Amazon shows your book. And so making sure that you spend the correct amount of time and you do that correctly is the difference between Amazon showing your book often or Amazon not showing it at all. So when you do that, I highly recommend that authors take that time and learn. Just one way you can do that, just Google the keyword, or just Google Kindle keywords or nonfiction keywords or fiction keywords. And you can find a process that will help you to identify those right keywords and how to put them in those boxes correctly. Now, there are other things that also influence this too. Like, for example, if the keyword is in your title or subtitle, that's important because a lot of people sometimes shop for a title, right? And so that's weighted by Amazon. The other thing is that how good is your book? That really plays into it. So you might have written a great book, okay, phenomenal book, and you selected some great keywords, but your book cover is just terrible. Like, you didn't even try. It's It looks like a Word document that just says the title, right? It doesn't matter how good you do on all of that. Amazon's not going to show your book because buyers are not clicking and buying the book, right? They are not interested in your dull cover. And so a lot of these things kind of play in effect. The truth be told is you can sum it all up by saying Amazon wants to show the book that makes them the most money. And honestly, when you analyze Amazon, that's probably the best way to analyze or figure out why they're doing something is ask yourself, what would make them more money? And that's what they're going to do. So Amazon wants to put the book that converts the best at the top. And so those are all the kind of key components that we authors can affect in order to not only increase our sales, but also increase Amazon's motivation to show our book over others, because we can do things to get in front of the right author or right readers, and we can do things to help make that sale. And then Amazon's like, sweet, let's make money together. And that's a much better situation.
So I'm imagining that keywords change depending on kind of what's hot, right? I mean, the market changes. So
Sometimes.
do the keywords sometimes change? Do you have to go back in and change them sometimes? Can you?
You can definitely change them whenever you want. As a matter of fact, I tell people though that if you do go to change your keywords, only change 2 boxes at a time. The reason for that is that I'll copy and paste the first, like the 2 boxes I'm going to change, I'll paste them somewhere else. Then I'll put in new phrases, and then I'll hit publish and see what happens. The reason for that is sometimes one of those boxes might have been one of your best keywords. It was sending so much traffic. Or you might be like, oh, this is out of date. And then you remove it, and all of a sudden your sales drop because that was the thing. So now you're like, whoa, well, okay. And you put back those originals, and then you maybe change another 2. That's why I recommend doing 2 at a time instead of just changing them all and, and finding out that that was not the right thing to do. So that's one way to approach it. Whether with regards to keywords and trendiness, honestly, Amazon's not, it's rare to find a keyword that is trendy, okay, that like peaked and then disappeared. There's maybe some gradual, like for example, vampire romance was incredibly hot when Twilight just came out. It's not as hot now, but it's still pretty high, so we don't really have these things that shift in crazy hardcore. It's usually just a steady, gradual thing. So I wouldn't be too worried about a trendy keyword as much as I would about just making sure that you have the right keywords that represent your book.
So do you have with Kindlepreneur, do you have different tiers for people coming in, or is it one tier for people coming in to learn? How does Kindlepreneur work?
Yeah, so one of the things is that when you go to the homepage of Kindlepreneur, you can select what you're most interested in, because there's different phases to a book. There's, coming up with a book idea, there's writing, there is putting the book together, there's book marketing, book advertisement, and so you can select what it is you want to learn. And when you click that button, it will present you with a list of articles that exist that focus on that general area. Another thing too is that we have a page that's called Get Started. And it's really, another word for it is like book marketing 101 as well. And when you come to that, it's almost like a table of content of all the most important steps and things an author should implement. And you can start to choose which one is important to you. So you might be at the phase of trying to come up with that right title. Great, click that one and now learn all of the strategies to coming up with the right title. It's not, it's funny, this is a great example. Titles aren't just some kind of like little creative thing that you just come up with. It can be, but there's so much more to it. When you work with publishers, believe me, they don't just go, that's a good word. I like that one. They're looking at a lot of things. They're looking at the competition. It's okay to have the same title as another book, but you now need to understand that that book is incredibly powerful. You might not ever show up for your title on the first page of Amazon because that 1 or 2 or 3 are just that powerful. Like, I'm sorry, but like, if you want to, this is a really bad example, but it's at least kind of shows the case. Like, I don't care if your character is called Harry Potter. If your title is called Harry Potter, you won't show up at all on Amazon because the real Harry Potter will show up. And the same thing kind of goes with like one word books. There's a couple of books called Prey. Prey. And so if you choose that kind of title, understand that, and those books are really good in all their different genres, that's problematic. There's a lot of things that comes down to when choosing your title. And so again, a phenomenal breakdown on that one step. So if you go to the Book Marketing 101 or Start Here page on Kindlepreneur, it will help you to, you can see all the most important things to truly get through your book, and you can choose the one that matters to you and jump right in.
So it's like I said earlier, processing. So it's you can break it down in a way that it's not too overwhelming.
Exactly. Yep.
That's good. It's really good. Yeah. Elizabeth, you had a second part to the question you had asked Dave, and I don't remember what it was when we first started. Was it how have you got started, Dave? Was that your question, Elizabeth?
Well, it was a little bit about that, plus KDP Rocket, which is such an amazing tool. I have no idea how it works. You probably do.
Yeah, no worries. We have video tutorials. Anybody can check it even if they don't have it. All you have to do is go to publisherrocket.com/tutorials, and we've designed some incredible video tutorials to step you through the different features. Also, so the important ones are on the left, and then on the right we have supplemental information as well as videos. And even for those who don't have Rocket, those can be really incredible videos to help you understand. Like, for example, choosing categories on Amazon. What's interesting is that when you go to publish your book on Amazon, right, on KDP, they give you a giant list of all these categories, right, that you can choose from, and they tell you to choose two. What a lot of authors don't know is that those aren't actually Amazon categories. Those are what's called BISACs. And BISACs are international standardization codes. And what's incredible about this is that there's about 4,800 BISACs out there, but Amazon has over 11,000 Amazon categories. So if you're one of those authors that just selects two of those BISACs, you're getting put in the same Amazon category that just about everybody else is in that doesn't know about this. And now it's the most competitive. You have the hardest time. And so in the videos, we show people how they can not only, I mean, you still have to check, select two BISACs when you publish. But then after that, Amazon has this form that was designed specifically for telling them which Amazon categories you want to be a part of. And so that's really important, especially if hitting that bestseller status is important to you. And to go back on it, the reason why the BISAC system works, which it kind of makes sense when you figure it out, is that back in the day, publishers used to just come up with categories on their own. Big publishers wouldn't just select one of the big categories, they'd select something very niche, and small publishers would select big ones. And so what would happen is that when the books got shipped from the publishers to the bookstore, giant bookstores had lots of aisles, and so they could put the book in it. The small mom and pop shops only had 13 aisles, so they would have to kind of guess which this would go in. And so imagine a big publisher selected Wiccan, this is a Wiccan book. And then it goes to either bookstore. The one person may look at the Wiccan book and be like, oh, this is religious studies, and put it in there. Another person might look at it and be like, oh, this is fantasy, put it in there. And the problem is the book would be in the wrong spot. So the book community created what they call the BISAC system. And there's only a certain number. And one store may list these 1,000 BISACs on one shelf, and one store might only list these 50 on one shelf, and it all depends on their size. So it's just a supply chain system. But self-published authors on Amazon don't know this. And so they're sticking their books in the most competitive categories out there, only to learn later, that they didn't even put themselves in an Amazon category. And that is rough.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we talked a bit before, I'm jumping the gun here, but a little bit about some of the other platforms on Kindle and the Kindle Vella and serialization of novels. And I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about that, unless there's something else you'd like to jump in with. Just how that's working. I mean, I've seen a couple of things with authors who are enjoying it and doing well on it. But I know you have some feelings about it that maybe you want to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I think right now Kindle Vella is not doing very well financially as a whole. I think the project, to many, would be seen as kind of a failure from a business perspective. There are a lot of authors that have really figured it out and are doing very well. There's a lot of authors that didn't. It would be an interesting study to be able to look at the difference between the ones that did and didn't. I would say that there are a lot of factors that might play into this. For one, is the amount of effort they really put into Kindle Vella. Is probably a major factor. Another is the genre that the person writes in. There are certain genres that people are just have an insatiable hunger for more and more. And there are certain genres where it's like you pick it up when you do. Case in point, like memoirs, people aren't just like, oh my goodness, I need my next memoir fix, right? But romance, on the other hand, I mean, if you don't have 5 romance books going at the same time, you're behind, it's kind of a big part of it. I think that affects it. But truth be told, though, I think one of the reasons why the business model as a whole is kind of failing is because so I believe, and I've seen a bit of information that would support this beyond just belief, but Kindle Vella was created because of successful programs like Wattpad. And I think Amazon looked at that and said, we want a piece of that pie too. And so they created Kindle Vella with that idea. The problem, though, is that if you look at the financials of things like Wattpad is incredibly successful in Asia. And a lot of that, from a bunch of analyst reports that I've read on the subject, state that it's due to the Asian culture enjoying those serialized small bits and that they're used to them. It's more a part of the market than it is here in America. And I think that Amazon underestimated that being a kind of, cultural market component than not. And so they created it. And one of the biggest problems that I think that they did was they only made it available in America. Now they've started to let a couple of countries, but it's not prevalent or existing in the Asian market. And so therefore, I don't think that they're seeing as much of a return on their investment. But that being said, though, I am incredibly surprised with how much they continue to push it. The reason this surprises me is Amazon's been really big about trying something really hard and then dropping it real quick. When it's just not proving to be financially viable, they'll just move on. And yet they haven't done that yet with this. So I think either A, it's because they see how successful and how much money Wattpad has done. And by the way, the reason why there's good information out there is because they were just bought by a major company. I think that they believe that there's a opening in the US market. And so I think they're still sticking with it. So right now, I don't think it's as hot. I don't think it's doing well, but it looks like there maybe is a case for it in the future.
Interesting. I know that you can serialize a novel there and then turn it into a Kindle novel afterwards.
Yes, you can.
I mean, there are some pros and cons, but interesting. Thank you.
American authors use Wattpad?
Mhm.
They can, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Interesting.
didn't know.
So go ahead, Elizabeth.
No, I thought you had another question, so I was
No.
going to wait for
No.
you.
No, I mean, it's so great. I mean, obviously we'd be talking over each other, but I remember seeing a video of yours a few years ago and it was too early for me, but I was trying to process it all. And it's so interesting. The keywords and all of that is so important.
Absolutely. That information it's kind of like a partnership with Amazon. If you give them the right keywords and categories, Amazon has a better understanding of what your book is, and they can make better decisions on where to put it. If you don't do that, they don't know what to do with it, and they won't do much with it. And so
that's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
So helpful to see it that way, Now, do you write fiction yourself, or is this taking over your life as Kindlepreneur, kind of where everything is at now for you?
So I did a lot of nonfiction back in the day, and then I started writing fiction, but then everything just went super speed on Kindlepreneur and Publisher Rocket, as well as Atticus, and then consulting. I've been really fortunate to work with some of my. Oh, Atticus is another software that we created. It's a book writing and book formatting software. It's a good way to put it is right now, it's what you would get if you took Vellum, but also added a writing component to it. had it work on all computers, give it more juice and capability, and make it $103 cheaper than Vellum.
Wow.
So, so yeah, so the big thing is that when that happened and everything like that, I've been fortunate to be able to work side by side with some of my favorite fiction authors. I've been a consultant to Orson Scott Card, Ted Decker, and and a bunch of others, and it's just been really neat to work with them. So sadly, I haven't gotten to write my fiction as much as I would personally like to, but it's been kind of a good bummer.
She'll come back for that when you have time, I bet.
Oh yeah, I'm just generating stories up here. I've got
Yeah, right.
notebooks. I've got notebooks of like random ideas that pop in my head, or when I realize this character. Like I'm reading this. There's a lesson that I learned from Jeepers. I'm actually failing on his name. Good Lord. Anyways, but the most important part was the lesson. And he said, "Hey, give your character a funny hat." And what he meant by that is that if it's a character that the reader should know about, like really should remember, don't do it for just random people, right? But give them something unique that sticks in their mind, okay? Like a funny hat, if you will. If they're crippled, if they, have half their tongue missing, I'm sorry, I'm just reading this book in fantasy. And the most interesting character of all is this guy who was tortured for years to the point that he's now a torturer. And this interest, and he's crippled because of the torture, and he lost his teeth, in it. And so he's constantly clicking his tongue, and mashing, and people look down on him because he's crippled, but he's actually probably the smartest guy in the room and nobody understands. And I'm just like, this is the coolest character building. Not that I want to torture or anything like that, but this isn't great. And so I'm just like scribbling notes. So as I go, I'm constantly thinking about, why did I like that character? Why did that character stick out? What was this point? And I'm just constantly building out.
Cool.
Yes.
Now I have a question, just because I am a Kindlepreneur member, and I thought that it was at the beginning, you said it was really important to change your categories often, but now you're saying not. Is that a change, or was that my
change your
understanding?
keywords.
Keywords.
You can change your keywords.
Keywords.
Categories, you can change them if you want to, but generally speaking, choosing your 10 categories that you want to be a part of, which is what you can go up to is 10. There's not too many reasons to change them around.
But keywords is
you
the
can,
one that
yeah.
change a lot.
You can if you want to, but two at a time. That's right.
Now, has that changed though since you started, or did you always say 2 at a time?
I wrote an article about 2.5 years ago that basically said, hey, like changing has great effects, but you want to do it methodically. I never said anything about not changing them beforehand, but that was the moment where I kind of planted a flag and say, we've seen through our experiments that this can really have good effects, but just be particular about it, because you might change out the keyword that was actually bringing you the most money.
So that makes good sense. Wow, this is amazing.
And I wanted to say that there will be links below to Kindlepreneur. I'm going to say it wrong. Atticus, the Rocket, whatever the Rocket's called now. The Rocket is called
Publisher Rocket.
Publisher Rocket. Those things will all be linked below for anyone who's interested in checking them out a little more.
And Publisher Rocket is also included with Kindlepreneur, correct?
Well, Kindlepreneur is a free online website. So anybody can go there to read anything, learn, whereas Publisher Rocket is a software.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And Publisher Rocket, then the software does what?
Publisher Rocket helps authors to choose the right keywords, choose the right categories, and do Amazon ads. It helps them to understand the book market. You can see how well other books are doing, how much money they're making, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Well, and choosing the keywords is really, I mean, it's amazing how it chooses keywords.
Yeah.
Now, is Atticus a totally separate software?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And like I said, right now it's probably one of the easiest and one of the best book formatting softwares. I feel like I can absolutely say that right now, I'll tell you the truth. We're constantly coming out with new features and capabilities. But ultimately, when I'm done, what I really want Atticus to be is the one book writing software that you never have to leave. So right now, people might use something like Scrivener or Word to write their book. Then they're emailing back and forth with their editor, and then they're finally having to import that final copy into a formatting software. Well, if you really want to create the best book writing software, make one that does all of those things. And so when we're done with Atticus, we're constantly adding, like I said, new features. I will best describe Atticus as if Scrivener, Google Docs, and Vellum got together and had a baby, its name would be Atticus.
Nice. That's
Well,
so helpful for
congratulations
writers.
on the new baby.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
need to have
right?
some Ours here.
And that would be so helpful to have it all in one.
Exactly. You can write in it, and then you can tag in your editor. The editor can work on it. You don't have any version control issues. You don't have 7 or 8 different files on your computer that say final copy. Then you can make your formatting. And what's really awesome about this is because it's all in the one software. If, say, 2 years later, you need to update or change a book that you worked on, just change the words, but all the formatting's perfectly in there, and just hit export just like that. And so that, I think,
That's
is one of the
awesome.
key things for authors right there.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
Oh.
So thank you so much for talking to us about all this. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an amazing tool. It's an amazing website, and your generosity in sharing with authors really is phenomenal, because I know I bothered you with a few emails and you got right back to me and you were so nice. And I knew I was kind of like going, wait, no, help me with this. No, help me with it. And you were really nice about it. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no
So-
worries.
So we look
Amazing.
forward to talking to you again, and we end each section with the best thing we learned this week. So I've got it's a sort of a funny one. Have you guys heard of the quokka? No, it's this marsupial that lives in Australia. It's the cutest thing you've ever seen. Just, looks like it's smiling all the time. It's got really big eyes. And when the female quokka, who's got a pouch with her baby in it, is confronted by a predator, she throws her baby out of her pouch, and the baby rolls around on the ground and foams at the mouth and screams, and she runs away and her baby gets eaten. So I don't know why that's the best thing I learned. Okay, why it really got me is this. So I was looking at quokka things, and I saw this is false. The mother doesn't actually throw her baby out of the pouch and do this. And so I started looking, and they're like, well, no, she doesn't throw her baby out. She relaxes her muscles so the baby drops out, and then it rolls around and screams and foams. And there were all these people like, oh, you're misrepresenting the quokka. And I just thought that was hilarious, because I thought, I don't know if there's such a big difference.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
Fear,
so she
though,
didn't throw it, she just released her
She
muscles.
just
Okay.
releases it onto the ground to die.
Die.
So I was looking at some of the climate things, and I found that there is a newer device that's being developed by the people at MIT. And it is it looks kind of like a PVC pipe, and it's for going into deep ocean, deep ocean, but it's at minimal price. So right now they cost about $700 to make. So they're considering the democratization of deep sea exploration, because different cultures, different people, different levels, socioeconomic levels will be able to actually see and collect data on what's in the deep oceans. And it's called, it's probably kill how this is pronounced in Hawaiian, but it's called a maka niu, which means coconut eye. So, but that's what it's called, and it can collect data. The new ones can collect data, or the original ones can collect data up to 1,500 meters, and they've come up with a new one that's going to be 6,000 meters. So Elizabeth knows that, because she's a diver, what that really means. So it's kind of cool.
A lot of atmospheres.
Yeah, can't dive there. So Dave, you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, I was helping my daughter with her report on Pocahontas, and I learned that there's a strong belief that Pocahontas did not save John Smith's life. As a matter of fact, there was reports that he sent that did not, he did need rescuing, but Pocahontas wasn't even near or a part of it in any way. However, though, when she was actually traveling over, I think she's like 16 when she got married, John Rolfe, then her and he went to England. And in preparation for her showing up, John Smith then sent a letter to the Queen of Denmark to then brought up the whole story of Pocahontas saved my life, so as for her to get a better welcoming and reception and become more famous to the courts of the king and queens. So in all honesty, I mean, there's
Wow.
some pretty strong argument that she didn't do it, is what I'm saying. And it would make a lot of sense, because then it was just kind of a marketing thing. She did a lot of incredible stuff, not knocking on her, but it was kind of interesting to say, oh no, you mean the Disney movie I watched wasn't right?
I like how Dave has gone and found a marketing example at the end of his
Yeah.
of our talk about marketing. So it's perfect. It's perfect.
So thank you so much. And we want to thank Maria Korloff for directing us and Alex Korloff for editing us.
Yes, we couldn't do it without them. And if you enjoyed our video, please go and hit the little like button and leave us any comments you'd like to leave. We'd love to know what you're thinking. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so you won't miss any episodes. And if you want to help us support the publication, MetaStellar, you can go to our Patreon page and help support new fiction. So we'll use that money to pay authors for fabulous new fiction. So thank you again, Dave. It's been lovely, really interesting. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.